says I gotta start now. Alrighty then. I hereby call to order the meeting of the Rockdale Planning and Zoning meeting of Tuesday, September the 2nd, 2025. Can we have a roll call, please?
Chair Williams,
Here.
Vice Chair Ratliff, Commissioner Miles,
Here.
Commissioner Flores,
Here.
Commissioner Houston, Commissioner Higdon,
Here.
and Council Willie absent.
He said he was coming.
Yeah.
Okay.
We do have a quorum. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Ben, is that you today, or who's gonna do the prayer?
It could be me if you want.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, if you'll bow your heads with me. Father God, we come to you today thanking for you to allow us to gather together and discuss more zoning related and other items that the city has presented before you. We pray for your guidance as we make these decisions and recommendations to the city council. Ask for your guidance and protection upon all of the members here and all of our city. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. And then we're gonna do a presentation. The only thing I have to say before you give your presentation is find a friend, find a relative.
What?
We've lost a commissioner and we're gonna need to replace.
Oh, Jamie?
Yeah, Janie had to step down. She took a new job offer, so congratulate her when you see her. But with that job, she can't make our meeting times anymore, so she has stepped down on the board, and so we have put that back out. We've actually had an applicant so far, but if you know of anybody, we'll all take them in at the same time. It'll be the same process that you all went through when you got on the board, that you will interview them, and there will be a scoring sheet. And we'll go through that process again and make a recommendation to city council for someone to fill that vacancy.
Sorry to steal any of your thunder, but I didn't know if you were gonna say that in here or not, but.
No, yeah, we were going to say it. So you're down a member.
For all the people listening on the internet, what we're saying is come to City Hall and pick up an application.
And apply.
And
Right?
This is a great side hobby. I couldn't think of anything better to do with my time. So off of the top of my head, I forgot to print an agenda for the city council meeting. I know that we're currently undergoing some fee changes. And in that, there are some planning and zoning fees that are changing. Just for your awareness, the city doesn't currently charge for the newspaper notices. There's sometimes in state law that I have to post in the paper that you guys are holding a public hearing. Most of the time, it's the city council that will hold that public hearing, not necessarily your board. But it's in relation to your board that we haven't. We've just been eating that cost. We've always had a set application fee that I'll throw out a random number. Maybe it's $200, but it doesn't cover any of the mail notices or the newspaper public hearing notice. And really what you want to do in those charges is cover your staff time and all those charges. So we've separated those items out. We've kept the application fee at whatever that rate is, and then we've added the proper notices. So that way when someone comes in with a rezone request, they know what they'll essentially be paying. They'll essentially get an invoice from the city.
does that go as far as like water heater replacement permitting, or is that just for public?
So permits are staying the same. The only thing that had a change on the permits was signs. Since we've taken away pole signs and we've added new types of signage, we needed to set that out in the fee schedule. Because in the past, it only listed a new pole sign, a sign reface, or a new sign. And those are the three limits. So we've added some stipulations on what type of sign you do is going to be the cost of that. So that's been added as well. It's been a major rehaul, and it's still going to go through its second reading. None of this has been passed yet. But that's what happened at the last council meeting, was the first reading. As far as the planning commission is concerned, it was a very slow meeting on your guys' behalf. This upcoming meeting, however, is very, I think I have 9 or 10 items that I've been working on the past couple of weeks. Some of those coming from you guys. others in similar relation. You'll see some of those items on today. Yeah, 2 of those items on today that will be going to them for the first time.
Shame on me, I didn't watch the council meeting with all my trips to the hospital and other things going on, but,
The budget was approved, if I have not said that already, so that has been set.
on the sign, did you get any comments back from council on the signage?
No, when they approved that, there was one dissenting vote due to the pole signs being removed, but they liked the ordinance. It was pretty much what they asked for as far as the teeth within it, the design standards within that to prevent signage that the city wouldn't necessarily want to see. And also, more importantly, set regulations for these electronic signage that's starting to become more and more popular with businesses. I told the commission when we last spoke that the existing signs are essentially grandfathered in, unfortunately. But any new signage that's electronic would be meeting that standard.
So we don't have any rewrite to that, we're
Yeah,
good for a second
your
reading.
ordinance is strong, and I've already reviewed someone's sign application of the urgent care that's coming in, has sent in 3 submissions so far, and it has not met your guys' standard that you have set, so they are still working on a resubmission of that sign.
Is that square footage, or what is the hang-up?
For them, it
Non-compliance?
was the percentage of masonry. I believe they have to meet a 40% with the type of sign that they're proposing. They were around like a 26%, if I can recall, and their sign was a little bit too tall. They've essentially now moved the sign back so it can be taller, and now they're trying to fix that masonry percentage, which is what you want, because you can see some communities that if you drive as you go on your honeymoon, you might see some that you see almost everything's just a sign. They may have a little tiny base. You kind of want to avoid that look, because to me that looks silly when you see something like that. So that's why you want to specify that percentage, because if you don't specify a percentage, I mean, the goal of the sign is to get eyes on it, so you're going to make that as big as you can.
Question about a sign. Like the new AutoZone sign. One side of it's almost completely covered up, I think, by a tree from the Dollar General store. How does that work?
So as far as their sign specifically is within a sign easement, but it's on their property. So someone may have a neighboring property that might be blocking that signage. That would just be a site design that you probably shouldn't have put that sign there. Would be what the city's comment would be. You could kindly ask your neighbor to, hey, can you cut this back so that way they can see this side of my sign? Or if it reached over their property line, then they can deal with it to their property line.
Okay.
Well, I think you were here on commission then, but they had a complication in that whole lot because of an existing highway.
Yeah, they have so what the city's old sign ordinance says, and the new one says as well, is that you were allowed one detached sign, which they had a billboard on the property, which counts as a detached sign, even if it's not necessarily for that business. And so they got a variance. They got a variance essentially to put a second detached sign, but it had to be a monument sign to do
Okay.
it. Is how that
I mean, it
ended
sounds
up.
nice. I'm just saying, from that one side, it's blocked from
Yeah.
like the Dollar General shrubbery.
As far as the city council, other than the fee schedule changes and the budget being approved, relatively slow, meaning as far as items that the planning commission would be concerned about.
Any questions on the report? All right, then, moving right along. Action items, number 2, review and approve the minutes from the meeting on August the 5th and 19th, 2025. Should be the next page in your...
I move to approve the minutes from August 5th, but
5th and 19th, or just 5th?
I wasn't here on the 19th, so.
Oh.
Only.
I move to approve the minutes on the 5th and the 19th.
Second. I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second that we approve the minutes and send it on to city council. All right, then, receive the monthly code enforcement report.
Okay, I apologize. This is the report for the month of August, not July, but the numbers remain the same. So currently the breakdown, remember we go by fiscal year, and so ours is from October 1st to September 30th, and then you'll see these numbers essentially start over. But until then, this is your August report. We've had 48 total trash and debris cases so far this fiscal year, 218 high grass cases, and then 26 miscellaneous cases. I'll remind the commission that can be anything from tree maintenance, not pulling the proper permits, and etc. A breakdown of those numbers is 265 of those cases have been completed and closed out. 10 remain in court, and I actually closed one of those out today because they have now complied, so that would be 9, and then 17 remain open. And then we've kept the tally that you've asked us to keep of since we started proactive code enforcement again, what we're at. We started that in 2021. 1,413 cases have been completed. 15 are open in court, which would now be 14. And then 17 remain open, which if you see in that pie chart gives us a 98% compliance rate so far. With that, I can fill any questions regarding code enforcement.
I don't know if this is the right place to ask this question. If utilities are putting in new structure, are they required to permit or inform the city that they're changing out copper cables to optics or anything along those kind of lines? Is that a permitted?
When they do
process?
work within a right-of-way, they pull a right-of-way permit. And they will let you know where they're working, what they're doing, and if they have to submit a traffic control plan because of any type of road closure or lane closure.
Yeah.
Then they will submit that to the city. The police department will then approve that portion of that permit.
Footnote here, Shanna, that was a good number you gave me, by the way.
Yeah. So there's 2 projects going on currently with utilities. The first is obviously NextLink is doing fiber across your city. They are doing almost all of their work within the ground. So they're doing an underground bore. They're slated to end in September. So you're coming up towards the end of that project. And then AT&T is also doing fiber throughout most of the city, but they're doing theirs mostly overhead.
Who's out at Fair Park? Do you know?
It would most likely be AT&T because I believe NextLink, that was one of their first phases.
Okay.
So on the code enforcement with like high grass, if I remember right, I think y'all go in parts of the city, like this area will run by today, and another area will do another day. Is that how y'all are still as far as high grass? So if a citizen called in and say, hey, this lot or piece of property has high grass, will y'all, will the city go ahead and enforce that, or we wait? Does it have to wait until it's their day or their time to?
Doesn't have to wait. The way that we do it, so we have it set up to where it's split in 5 routes, to where each property gets looked at once a week to keep it fair and even.
Right.
But if somebody calls in, then yes, it will be handled outside of that route typically, especially if it's a major health hazard.
Yeah.
Any other questions regarding code enforcement report?
Just a quick comment. As we get further away from the 2021 on the total numbers, it might be good to turn that into year over year.
Yeah. However you guys want to see the report, if you want to just see a breakdown of the last fiscal year to this fiscal, however you want to see it, I can change that.
Just
We'll put it into a workshop to discuss it.
If you just want to give me your opinion separately of how you want the report to change, and then I'll compile that list and see which one wins, and then we'll make that change. But yeah, if any of the reports, if you want to make a change, this is for your readability.
It's your thought. What do you have any thoughts on which way you prefer to go?
yeah, I mean, it was just turning it to year over year. So I mean, maybe next fiscal year, just have it to where you like have the completed court compliant and open for the current year, and then the past ones can be on more of like a year by year graph or whatever is easiest for you. Yeah.
Data is data.
Yeah, however you want to see that data. If that's something the planning commission wants, I can easily put that list together. I mean, I have these numbers, so it's whatever is easier for you guys to read because I work with this daily. So
Yeah,
however you want to
I think
see it, I
that's
can work
for
with it.
next fiscal year to consider.
In other, what would that consist of? Just a few examples on the case breakdown by violation.
So some examples would be we've had a couple of cases where a tree may hang too far over a sidewalk or in the road, and you have to be a certain footage above that, so they may receive a notice. There's also not pulling permits, and the city staff catching you doing some work without a permit would fall under this list. Property maintenance violations like a hole in the roof or siding issues on a house falls within this list. I put other just because it's, instead of listing siding,
right.
you'll get one. I
Yeah.
mean, it encompasses.
Yeah.
Second time. Any other questions on the code enforcement? Next item, please, sir. Do you need to change caps from code enforcement?
No. All right. So this is the August Development Services report. In this report, we've had 6 building permits, 1 demolition permit, 6 electrical, and 6 plumbing. So it's been a relatively slow month for permits. In that, no new homes were built this month, which is the first time since January.
No new homes.
No new home permits in the month of August. So first time since January that's happened. Which, if I would have told you that 3 years ago, would have been a shock to your system. So you take it as you get it. In those permits, we've had an estimate of almost $45,000 in estimate improvements. All of them have been relatively small projects this month, whether it had been new roofing, fencing, carports, etc. With that, we did hold a development meeting this month for a potential development on the west side. Any questions?
I hate it when he leaves you dangling at the end of his report, but
Well, I guarantee you that as it moves forward, and hopefully it moves forward, you will be one of the first bodies seeing it. And so you will get very familiar with it when that time comes.
be careful what you wish for. Any questions regarding his report? Development services.
I got, as far as development services, I know it looks like, or it says, you know, the building, electrical, plumbing, stuff like that. What would like roads be as far as preparing for the development?
So we have a streets and parks department. Now, the planning commission does have a responsibility that we discussed at the last meeting where I've sent you guys a spreadsheet
Yeah.
of the street analysis. We'll begin to start workshopping a list of streets of the order that we'd like to see them repaired and make that recommendation to the city council as far as when that gets to that point in the budgeting process.
Repair, yeah, okay, repair is good, but I was more asking along the lines like, clearly we're not going to be able to, the city's not going to be able to handle the development that's coming with the roads that we have now. I'm asking like more roads, more access to 47 that way where Cornerstone's at, or if the new development comes out more towards where the Texas Street stuff is at. I mean, is there any plan or anything for more roads to get in and out of?
Good question. The way that is handled is when a development comes in, they have to give you a traffic impact analysis. And so what that analysis states is where your traffic is at currently, and then when this development is built out, what is that going to look like? And any improvements that have to be made due to that increase in traffic, if necessary, is the developer's responsibility.
Gotcha.
And that's how you handle that impact of their development.
Part of the Texas Street project included them resurfacing Belton, basically from Texas Street all the way to
Green.
Green Street.
Yeah, and that was because of the traffic impact analysis.
But the volume of traffic wasn't
Right.
so great as to require a widening.
Is it possible, I mean, I know this is probably hypothetical, but is it possible that the city could get behind on that if everything, I mean, of course, the people are thinking that it's supposed to triple in population here in the next 5 to 6 years, about maybe sooner. Is there a possibility that we could get behind?
Can I table this? We're gonna be getting into a workshop on what you're asking.
Okay.
Here, not today, but probably Thursday or whatever.
Sure, I'll just leave with a closing statement and we'll workshop it. As far as the roads go, the city has jurisdiction over the local roads. So take out FM 487, 908, and Cameron. Those are TxDOT responsibilities. They undergo the same thing that we do of they analyze the new traffic from these developments and make the necessary improvements for those roads.
And the answer to that was out at the Cornerstone, how they changed to have turn lanes.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, they'll make those adjustments and they'll work with the developer. So just as the city works with the developer, TxDOT will work with the developer as well as far as the improvements needed to handle that traffic impact on that road.
One more time, any other questions on the Development Services Report? If not, number 5, consider and take any necessary action on a recommendation to the City Council regarding an ordinance amendment to Chapter 14, Section 14.02.072 Home Occupations and Section 14.02.072 Allowed Use Table.
All right, if you remember at the workshop, we discussed the state law that essentially defined what a no-impact home occupation is. And they've said if you meet that criteria, then you cannot require them to come in and pull any type of special permitting to have that use. And so what I've done is I've changed the language. If you look at the next sheet over, you'll see in 070 home occupations. I've changed the language. The first thing I did in general requirements is I wanted to reference the state law of why we're changing this and establish what that no impact home-based business means. And then I've separated that out. So on D is essentially the section that regulates no impact home-based businesses. This section literally just reiterates state law of what we're allowed to regulate. Now I've kept section E. I've created that, and all I did was essentially move over your past section to that section, because there may be a time that a business does not meet a no impact home based business, so we still need to regulate it. The likelihood of that is very unlikely. But in the case that it happens, I've required them to still come in and pull a conditional use permit, and then they would have to meet the following requirements, and we can discuss those requirements if you have any concerns over them.
Yeah, number 4, I wish Joni was here for linguistics, but under section D, number 4, the unit may not be altered to alter the resident. So you're saying it, explain it to me, Lucy.
The easiest way to explain that is a home has to look like a home, cannot look like a business.
Put business signs up, advertising.
Well, yeah.
It allows you to put a 1 square foot in area sign, which is extremely small. And if you look at it from the side of the road, it's going to look like a house. That's essentially what that section is regulating. You cannot alter your structure to look like a business. It has to look like a home, whether you run a home occupation out of it or not. And that section is also in E as well.
So it can have a sign, it's just gotta be.
Yeah, but 1 square
1 square
is-
foot is extremely small. I mean, it's
Okay.
it's essentially a sign you're not going to see from the road. Yeah.
Yep, about the size of a
Eh,
9/10.
Yeah, your address numbers I think are a similar size to that. I mean, it's an extremely small sign.
I do have a question about C, where it says, about halfway through the paragraph, it says, a no-impact home-based business does not include businesses that sell alcohol or illegal drugs. Should that be legal drugs, or is it supposed to say?
Well, and it also says sexually oriented businesses,
But I
but
mean,
that's actually strictly forbidden by Texas state
It
law,
sells
so.
illegal drugs.
So this is the definition from that section.
Yeah, no, it's. yeah.
Verbatim of what they
It's what
said.
it says, it just, is a little redundant with the
Yeah.
legal.
Sounds illegal drug business, right?
Yes, yeah, we have other issues then.
Yeah. Well, essentially what that's saying is if they sell illegal drugs or if they sell alcohol, then it is no longer a no impact home based business. And it would have to be permitted, but obviously you're not going to permit illegal drugs being sold in a home. Same with the sober living or,
You would
or
have lots of
SOB.
requests on that with permits on it.
Yeah. But that's
geez.
exactly why I worded it that way, is because that is exactly how state law has it.
Yeah, I saw that.
Question. The new law took the vapes out of stores.
Did that,
Is that
did that
been handled here too, or what? Do y'all know anything about that, or?
If it was passed, I missed it, but I'd have to get with the police department about that.
I want to say it's up for vote this week.
Okay, because I heard they already passed it, and somebody in here was telling me that they had to get rid of them by the 1st of September.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. You might want to check into it.
Yeah, I'll
So
look
you
into
can't
it.
have them in a regular
You
store?
can't sell them at all.
I saw in one of the convenience store, they had them all on sale.
They take
So
them
I
off.
figured
Yeah,
something was
dude in here just sold all this for $10 a pop.
So what about a store that just sells that? They can't?
They can't sell them. They
Can't
come
sell
off the shelves.
Wow.
Yeah.
No longer.
I just happened to realize the other day I was driving to Temple and when I drove through Cameron, Cameron's got 5. They don't have 5 of anything.
yeah, they do.
They got
You're
5
correct,
vapes
sir. I saw that.
There's plenty of business.
Yeah, vape stores have a tendency to have gambling with them that keeps them sufficient, is usually how it goes.
Or other things.
Yeah. They're not
Okay.
usually solely dependent on that. But
We've
yes.
wandered down the rabbit's hole here, but okay, back to
That
your.
was illegal drugs, so that's why we brought that
That,
up.
y'all left the whole thing when you said drugs. Let me get you back out of the drug alley. Okay.
So to break this down again of what I did in section C, I've just defined what the state law is, exactly how the state law defines it. And then on section D, I've created you a section of what defines a no impact home based business, which is again just reiterating what state law says. And then section E is for the case of your home occupations that may not meet that definition. Then they would have to come pull a conditional use permit from the city council to operate their business.
I'm going to step real lightly here. But let's go back for my understanding under 1402.070. There was an existing number 6 that stated any home occupation may not create an increase in traffic to a residential area, and we've changed that, does not generate on-street parking.
It's essentially saying the same thing,
Yeah.
but I reiterated exactly how the state has it. But it's saying the same thing, just for clarification
Just
purposes.
because of issues of parking, I want to make sure that this has been blessed, that this is.
It is the exact same thing, and the question that I have with that stipulation of state law is, if you have one customer come to your house, you've technically increased the traffic to that area. They don't intend for you to read it that way, but you know.
Okay.
If you don't live in the house and you're going to someone's house for a business that's not within that residential traffic count, because they say you have about 10 trips a day, and we've talked about trips where a trip is you go to work, that's one trip, you come home to eat lunch, that's another trip, then you go back to work, the mail person comes to your house, the mail person leaves. Those are all trips. And so if you have a business and someone else comes outside of that traditional trips that they've defined, you've increased the traffic technically.
And one
So if
other,
you're not going to work and you're staying at home, that's 10 trips, then you got 10 clients or 5 clients, then you ain't increased the traffic.
Exactly. It's a tough thing to regulate.
and then the next number there where it talks about the adopted fire standard, just educate me on that one real quick. 7 is the number that.
Yeah, so 7, again, that was in state law. They threw us a bone with this one and said you can regulate one thing when it comes to no impact home-based businesses, and you can require them to meet their fire and building code. So,
Where would be a conflict on that, such as?
there wouldn't. I mean,
For,
that's-
in our existing environment right now.
Well, I mean, it's not, because when someone comes and opens a business or home occupation, they're supposed to receive a certificate of occupancy, which means they meet your current codes that you've adopted that day.
So we do have a safety net, basically.
So one example would be like putting the exit route for, in case of a fire, that would be required for a business, not necessarily for a residential home. So that might be one of the things that we're looking for.
It means your electrical's up to code. It means your building meets the 2017 or 2018 International Code Councils that we have adopted. I mean, that's essentially, it's just a reiteration of something that already happens. But the state threw us a bone and said, you know, you can regulate this when somebody comes in.
Handicap accessible bathrooms?
No. The way handicapped accessible bathrooms work is you have to be open to the public, and home occupations aren't. That they don't have to be ADA compliant restrooms.
Excuse the awkward silence in the room right now, but,
Yeah.
Very interesting. Moving right along then, I'm sorry I derailed your train of thought, but
No, you're fine. So that's what that section's saying. Before we get in the use table, is there any questions on what I'm proposing in that section? Any changes that you guys would recommend to that?
to the best of your knowledge, it brings us up to what the current government,
It brings you to state law with also giving you the potential of still requiring that conditional use permit if somebody doesn't meet the state law. Again, that's not really gonna happen because typically home occupations don't happen outside of an enclosed building, but I've kept it in there just in case you need it.
does this throw more work on your permitting?
Actually less, because they're now allowed by right instead of coming in for conditional use permits. So it essentially takes the approval process away from the city and just grants them by right.
Do we then have a designated on a map anywhere process
As far as existing home occupations?
as far as when they come in and say we're gonna be doing this home occupation? Do we have an HO designation now, or should we research that, or?
Home occupations don't come from your zoning designations. And that actually is in the state law that we can't require a specific zoning designation for them.
No, I don't wanna zone that, I mean,
But as far as how they operate, yes. When they begin their operations, they're supposed to come to the city, whether they do or not, and they're caught after the fact is one of those things. But if they're caught after the fact, they're held to the same code standards. So if they were defined as a no-impact home-based business, then we would essentially say, well, does your structure meet the codes of the fire and building code? If it does, and you meet all these other requirements, then you can operate as is. If they don't, then they'll have to cease their operation and come in for a conditional use permit request and city council approval. That's how that would work. Any other questions on that section before we get into the use
that
table?
moves us on to the second part of your,
Yeah, we had a small change in the use table. So you'll see mine's front and back. So if yours is as well, it should be on the back of the very beginning of the table. You'll see highlighted in red. That's our home occupations section. What I've done is I've removed those specific listings of home occupations because most of those are going to fall within your no impact home based business. So there's no need to reiterate the point that's already been said. And what I've done,
now, when you're saying red, are you talking about the red lettering, or are you talking about
the red highlighted line is removed. The red lettering is proposed.
Got it.
So after you remove those sections, what I've done is I've have an impact home-based business is the one that you can regulate. And so what I've done is I've essentially just required them to have a conditional use permit no matter what, which is what your past code was going for. And then the non-impact home-based business that's defined by state law is allowed by right. And that's what I've done to your use table.
Mr. Higdon, what is TL OC 299.9? Okay, I'm not the only.
That's the Texas local government code.
Texas.
That's the abbreviation for that.
Remind me what C
C is for a conditional use permit, so not allowed by right, and X is allowed by right.
Okay.
Yeah, I put that in there so that way, when somebody looks at this in the future and like, man, what was the city doing? That was the local government code section of why we did what we did. So, and that also tells you
I
if
knew it had to be there for a reason, Ben.
maybe they take it away, and then
Yeah.
you can say that that section no longer exists, and you can go back to enforcing it how you would like to enforce it. So it's in there for just for that reason. It's just another reiteration that this is state law requiring us to do this.
Questions?
With that's the amendment to both of those sections. So if there's any questions or rewrites that we want from the section, I'm ears.
That was a little bit of time invested in that, wasn't it, sir?
Well,
Or is it all straight from?
reading state law is always the longest part of it, honestly, and then putting it into your ordinance is easy. Once you understand it, it's just getting to the part of trying to understand what their intention was. So,
If there's no questions, we'll move on to action item number 6. Consider and take any necessary action on a recommendation to the city council regarding a conditional use permit request for climate-controlled storage at 1817 West Cameron.
I need you to take action on action number 5.
Did I not say, do we moving on?
You didn't take a vote.
Oh, we gotta take a vote?
It's a recommendation of city council for an ordinance.
Yeah, I move to approve the recommendation to the city council regarding an ordinance amendment of chapter 14, section 1402, 070, home occupations, and the allowed use table.
No, you have to repeat what he just said.
I'll repeat what you just said. I second earlier.
All those in favor of sending this on to city council? That was just a simple little action item, but that pretty comprehensive,
It
you know.
it takes a lot of work. Honestly, it does, but
Well, it's nice that this law change actually shortened things for us.
Shh, they'll deduct it from.
I pull my hair out doing all that.
you get used to it after a while. I remember when I first started having to read state law, and I was like, wow, I hope I never have to dig into this. And then I found out it's a big part of my career, and I got to dig into it. But you get used to reading it after a while.
Oh, man. That completes action item number 5. Both of those have been voted on and passed on to city council. Moving on to number 6, consider and take any necessary action on a recommendation to the city council regarding a conditional use permit request for climate-controlled storage at 1817 West Avenue. What are we looking at here?
Well, I first want to apologize to the commission. I think this is the first memo I've ever written to you guys where I do not have a recommendation. The sole reason is climate controlled storage, or just storage in general, does not produce many jobs, nor does it produce a lot of sales tax. But on the other hand, this building has been vacant for 2 years, and so we would like to see it in a reproductive use.
Building is that?
This is I know what building it is. This is one of the old car places.
I'm looking at it.
Was it CarQuest?
Is it CarQuest?
Location,
Okay. I think it was.
Okay.
I can't recall. I mean, there's a sign out there.
Okay, there's Julio's. Okay, so
More west.
yeah.
More
So
west.
Fastenal, what used to be Fastenal is Cardinal Roofing, right?
Right.
Right.
Okay.
It's
more-
not that one. Keep
No,
going.
I see it. It's right by Classic Bank there.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But
Yeah. Yes.
that building has been vacant for a little over 2 years. I went back and pulled my vacant commercial reports to see how long it's been vacant for you
Yeah,
guys.
it was CarQuest. It was owned by Doug Wilde, and he passed away due to COVID. So it's been at least that long.
Yeah. And
Second year of COVID, so.
So the applicant, Mr. Arledge, came in my office and requested to use that building in that manner, and you've changed in the past few months of requiring any storage warehouses to require a conditional use permit for the city council. So I looked at your ordinance. The ordinance calls for you guys to look at it first and make a recommendation to the city council, which is why it's before you today. He couldn't be here today, but he did provide what it would look like.
Oh,
If you care to see, it's known as Castle Storage. He says there's one in Bryan College Station. If you drive out that
Yeah.
way, you should see it. But this is his plan. He is essentially playing that castle facade in the front. And then the existing building, he will make climate controlled storage. He has plans to expand and put more storage in the back as well.
only concern I've got is water control through there, but, you know, that's not under our wheelhouse, but
Well, I mean, if he's going to develop that property, he's going to have to get an engineer to tell us what that drainage is doing. If he's going to cover
There's
more
a
of
big
it.
slope in the front of it, isn't there?
Yes.
all the way to the very back of.
It slopes all the way to the back. I mean, you have a dip, and you come up that dip, and then it just goes straight to the back. And then I'm assuming the drainage goes to the railroad, just like a lot of people's in that area does, and it takes it and collects it.
It looks really good.
Climate control storage in town that I'm aware of is out by the airport.
Those are,
Part of those
I think
are-
those are his too, aren't they?
Used to be, is it still have them?
Bulldog or whatever it used to be called.
I thought he told me he sold them.
Oh.
I don't recall.
He might have.
But
Anyway, it doesn't conflict with what we just wrote. Right?
well, I mean, this is I mean, as far as what you wrote in your use table adoption for storage, is you didn't say it wasn't allowed. You just said you want to require a conditional use permit. Now, when you require a conditional use permit, you can make recommendations to the city council on whether approving it, disapproving it, or requiring certain standards to be in place, such as maybe additional landscaping or fencing,
Fencing, landscaping.
you know, things of that item, security systems. We've done that in the past where we required those items. I mean, it is your call what you recommend.
And I would say generally, self-storage businesses are not that attractive, especially along the highway, obviously. But
I thought I had my shield of silence, so I thought you weren't reading my mind, but when I was talking about
Well,
that, but going over that hump and then straight down, and if they were gonna convert the existing building, this is where, if they were gonna convert the existing building, I had a few questions, but you're showing me proposed.
This is his proposal. Nothing has been officially submitted. I just asked him and said, you know, they're going to have questions on exactly what you mean by climate controlled storage. So he referred me to these architectural drawings on his website. But as Tim is stating, a lot of cities tend to go the route, especially as they grow, that they begin to not like to see car washes and storage along highways.
That should be
along
prime property right there, but, you know,
Right. But, I mean, again, you've required a conditional use permit. A conditional permit is purely discretionary. You can approve or deny upon any means.
And you can table it and require that he be here to answer questions and provide better schematic. I mean, the schematic he has actually looks pretty nice, but it's kind of small and kind of hard to see.
I do like how the castle design does kind of fit the aesthetic of the town a little bit. So it's like it's the least or at least worst option as far as storage.
reiterate what Tim was saying, we have the option to,
You have the option to take any action you want today. You could table it if you choose to and require him to be here. That is your choice. You know, I've told him he has to attend the city council meeting. But he did get notified pretty last minute that the meeting was today, just because I didn't realize your ordinance calls for you guys to see this. And so I called him on Friday and told him, hey, can you make it? And he said he could not.
This is the Carquest you said?
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
So is this, it's gonna be one building, right? It's gonna be,
Well, so what he's going to do is one building currently,
Right.
and he's going to expand a separate building in the back, is I believe what his intentions are. So there'll be two
Okay.
buildings on the
yeah,
property
my
at some point.
assumption, the bottom photo would be facing the highway and all that behind it would extend.
Yeah. That's essentially what he's doing is it's essentially just a castle facade on the front. That's going to be it. The rest of it is just going to be the generic buildings, and the building that he builds in the back will not have the castle facade on it either.
No.
It's just going to be.
There's a couple of
storage.
bays existing behind the
Yeah.
store. There was a store there, and then there were some repair bays, and I'm assuming, without his presence, I'm assuming that that's a continuation or extends behind the facade of the, well, I see bay doors showing on the bottom. I don't know. So how,
Till he come?
You can require his attendance if that's something that the planning commission wants to do.
May I ask more questions?
I'll say your commission, what are your ideas? What are your thoughts?
I say table it till he can come in.
I think table it.
We have a suggestion to table. Table,
Table, I'm good.
and put it in a form of motion, I guess.
Did he give any kind of
We're gonna,
investment he was gonna make?
we've suggested that we table it until a further time. Although, we're all in favor of that, right? Yes. Well, is that a question? Is that a votable, is that?
It would be a motion to table. I mean,
Okay.
a motion to table and just make it contingent on him being in attendance.
I make a motion, table it.
Motion and second to table it till he can attend and talk to us about it a little bit. I hope, I mean, he's pretty busy. Did he think he could make one?
Well, he's gonna make it if he wants to run the business, so.
Okay, so that's the motion. It's been seconded, and that's how we're gonna.
Yeah, I'll see if he's available for your next upcoming meeting, or if he'll wait till the regular.
Ha ha.
And just
Action,
also
sir.
Be aware, it's more difficult to say no to somebody but to their face.
Yeah.
Not really.
Not really.
Well, and what I'll
We're not gonna
suggest,
open this can of worms.
what I'll
You have a
suggest,
workshop for us today, sir.
yes, what I suggest though is to,
She has.
We need to finish, we took the motion, we didn't do the, all in favor.
Votes? All those in favor? Okay.
Oh.
Good catch, I guess.
Unanimous.
research maybe think about before he comes in what you're expecting as far as what would make a successful climate control storage.
How big
In
is
your
that
eyes?
lot? Do you know?
I can get
That
those numbers to
location?
you. I'll get those numbers and let you know. I do not know that off the top of my head, but
And I'd be curious how many climate-controlled storage facilities we already have in the city.
we have none
Zero.
in the city.
Okay.
We have a property zone for one, but the
Yeah.
development never happened.
Yeah,
And there's one right outside the city, is
Yeah.
what I was mentioning over
by the airport.
Yes.
Back up
It'd be nice to have it
in the city.
looking nice and landscape, everything up to par as the new ordinances.
Yeah, that's the thing you can do with conditional use permits is you set the standard at that point of what your recommendation to council is. Council really makes that ultimate determination. But if you want to recommend to council that you want to require a certain amount of shrubs and trees over what he would be required now, you can do that. You can require a certain type of fencing if you
Well,
require
that's
a
what,
certain
yeah,
type of
is
fencing.
this gonna be a gated?
Yeah, I mean, you can be
Right.
as specific as you want, and then it would be the applicant's choice to meet those standards or just to take his business elsewhere.
I want to see what he had in mind. You know, so he might already have all that in mind, but
I mean, does he know that we require gates and fencing and?
Well, we don't necessarily require it by ordinance. You can put it as a requirement. There's a choice of doing it, but it's not required.
we just require the landscaping and stuff, right?
Yeah, his basic requirements if he's to develop that property, and it depends on the use of that property because there is a commercial. For him, it would be a different use because storage is its own classification. He'd be putting in.
We didn't work on any. I
You
thought we-
did. You're thinking of boat and RV storage. We did.
That's what, okay.
As far as his basic requirements, yes, he put in new parking and he put in landscaping, and that's it. And of course, bring the building to code. Those are the three items he's required to do. Outside of that, those base requirements, he's not required to put in fencing. He's not required to put in any sort of security system, anything like that.
Do you know if it requires any staffed hours of operation?
No. Not that I can recall from the ordinance.
Most of them nowadays either issue a card or a code.
Yeah, most don't
but-
have staff on site. They won't even have a restroom on site.
I didn't see it in the plans, a restroom, but
But that's also, I'm thinking of more outdoor stores, not internally climate controlled. So they may be slightly different on how their business practice runs.
Well, if you can ask him to come explain it to us, I'd appreciate it.
I will request them to be here.
So now are you ready to start the workshop? Shanna,
I
are
am.
we on go for number 7?
I'll try to be quick with this one today because this one is purely just the thinking workshop, and I just more need your guidance on how you guys want to move forward. So a friendly reminder, I wanted to give some overview just so we know where we're going today. There's typical zoning components. You're going to have an agriculture or green space. You're going to have residential. You're going to have commercial, and you're going to have industrial. Those are your base zoning types. You can get as specific as you want from there of how you want to regulate that. You can also have as strong of an ordinance as you want, or you can make it as weak as you want. A good rule of thumb is you want it to be a strong ordinance, but you want it to have some sort of flexibility to it. So that way you allow for, as development standards begin to change and adapt to the current market, you'd want to remain in line with that. You will see in a case, you can keep a very strict zoning ordinance and just offer a planned unit development as the solution to all of your problems. So the city of Red Oak I've looked at, and they have a lot of different zoning districts. We are only going to get into residentially zoned districts today. We're not going to talk about any commercial. So just so you know, it's only residential. Agricultural is included in that because agricultural / green space sometimes allows for a home to be built on it, and it's also a very small density per acre, just like residential is compared to your commercial. So for the city of Red Oak, they have the agricultural district, they have a single family residential estate, an R1 district, an R2 district, an R3. They even go to R4, and then they separate apartment / multifamily dwelling districts. And then they have a ranchette estate district. I did a very quick glance over their ordinances. As far as R1 through R4 are concerned, the only differences is the lot sizes. That's the main difference of how they give that definition. They may have different use standards that I didn't look at, but as far as what defines each district is the lot size. That's just the table of their zoning if you wanted to see it further. They do have some commercial districts, which we won't get into it today, as well as their planned development districts, which we will talk about on the next slide. So they're the community that I'm referencing to you about. They have a pretty strict zoning ordinance, similar to ours. Is a very Euclidean style zoning designations out there, which gives clear and precise standards, which is good as far as you know what's allowed. The only problem with it is if it's not allowed, you have to get creative with what's the planned unit developments. So if you remember, we discussed usually for a code rewrite, if you start using more than a few planned unit developments, that you're due to rewrite your zoning ordinance to meet current standards and maybe provide a little bit more flexibility to what your community wants. The city of Red Oak is a community that hasn't changed the Euclidean standards, which is okay. If it works for that community, it works for that community. They've taken more of the planned unit development route, so they're up to 43 was what was on there within their ordinances.
And I will tell you that a lot of those PUDs or PDs that they have, the standards are pretty similar, regarding requiring alleys and no front-facing garages, or one of the things you can do with the PDs is have masonry requirements, which you can't do legally now outside of a PD. But for the most part, many of those PDs have similar standards. So even though they're zoned P1, PD1 through PD43, they do them individually but a lot of times they have.
And like for fire protection and stuff like that, are they numbered? You know,
They're
there's
numbered because that's how they're approved in the ordinance. A developer comes in and say, as an example, Cornerstone would be PD1. Republic Ridge is PD2. This new subdivision would be PD3. And each one of those is gonna be a little bit different because, I mean, they're gonna be completely different because they have different lot layouts. But the standards, the setbacks, the requirements that the city places on them are all very similar. But they may have different lots, combinations of lot sizes, green space set-asides. They all require sidewalks. They all require pretty much the same landscaping standard. So, but they just do it instead of somebody coming in and meeting that strict, that Euclidean zoning. All their old subdivisions are zoned under that Euclidean zoning, but everything that is developed in the last 25 years has been under a PD. And that's just the way Todd liked it, the planning director, city manager there.
So I bring that to your attention because that's an option for us as well. You know, I use it as an indicator for a code rewrite, but you can also keep your code the same, and plan unit developments are a good tool to use. And I will tell you, you're still going to have plan unit developments every once in a while when you even do a new zoning rewrite, because standards just keep adapting and changing. Just from a professional opinion, you want to keep that lower.
One of the reasons for that is because of the fact that a PD, there is local control. So when the state legislature comes in and says you can't do X, Y, or Z from a zoning standpoint, you can't include that in your zoning ordinance, but you can negotiate that through a PD.
But it's under the city, I mean, like fire control, PD and all that, it's not a freestanding district, it's under the city umbrella,
Under the
right?
city, yeah. Just like Cornerstone is a PD, right?
Right. I mean, the way PUDs work, or PDDs, are all the same thing. You have a base zoning, and anything that you do not specify differently within that planned unit development, it refers back to that zoning requirement.
Overuse of planned developments is an indicator that it's time for zoning ordinance amendments.
That's typically a rule of thumb. I mean, it's discretionary. Like I said, you can keep your code the same. The city of Red Oaks kept theirs the same, and there's nothing wrong with keeping it the same. You can make small amendments here and there and keep attacking it through a planned unit development if you choose to. Planned unit developments, as Tim said, I mean, they have their benefits. They really allow for as flexible as the zoning as you want to make it. The only issue with them is they cause uncertainty, because it really is just a negotiating tool between two parties. So the other community I looked at, I spoke to y'all's fearless leader, and he asked me to look at Hutto and Taylor as well, so I had them in the sheet. So what Hutto does is they have a single household rural estate, a single household medium density. They also then have a 2 to 4 household SF2 residential, a multiple household, and then they also do have a manufactured home residential district. And I'll reiterate to the commission, if state law requires that you allow manufactured housing, how the city chooses to do that can either be in its own zoning category, or it has to be allowed where you allow site-built houses at. So if you don't specify in a different zoning category, then it is presumed that they are allowed wherever you allow site-built homes. So what Hutto has done is they've had their own zoning designation, just as we have it.
So, what, am I allowed to ask questions? I don't think I've ever asked that. Can I ask questions?
Yes.
So, you have manufactured homes, then you have modular homes, then you have site-built. Modular automatically falls under site-built, correct?
Modular by state law is required where site-builts go.
Okay.
And modulars are built to the same building code that site-builts are.
Okay, so they come in basically maybe a room, a wall, or something. It's not just two pieces of a home, correct?
Every modular company does it differently. Some will actually prefab them in a factory and deliver it to you on site, and some will just give you the materials and give you the plans and show you how to put it together.
Oh.
It just depends who you use. I've seen it both ways.
I haven't seen any yet, but apparently everything now, you can order a home off Amazon. You can order a pop-out home. How
There's
does
a
that
lot
work?
of, I've gotten a lot of calls about some of these. There's a lot, I don't remember what they called them. What happens a lot of these times with these homes that you're seeing on Amazon, they don't meet the HUD code, which the HUD code is what regulates manufactured homes, and they don't meet the local building code, which is what your municipality has adopted, which for us is the International Code Council codes
Okay.
and the National Electric Code. Usually what they meet is what I've found is the RV code, which is something you wouldn't expect, which is not something that would be allowed as a living unit typically in municipalities. Usually it's going to have to either be a HUD code or a site built is what I've seen. I haven't seen any municipality that's allowed RV code dwelling units to be placed.
So double wide would be considered
Manufactured.
is that manufactured home?
Yes, so the difference, so there is a,
The base, right, of the home?
well,
It's like it comes in half the house and then the other half comes in and you put it together.
the real differentiation between the two is not the looks of them. I fell under the same rabbit hole and I thought the same thing. It's the year, and I believe it's 1974, they changed the regulations of what that code is. And so that determines what's a manufactured versus what's a mobile.
Modular.
No, mobile. Mobile and manufactured are the same things, but they're just different code variations as it hit, I think it's 1974. Modular is different. Modular is its own thing that's built to the local building code. But mobile and manufactured are both built to the HUD code. But there was a year, which I believe was 1974,
They're not
that
allowed.
changed the standards.
in
The
city.
ones after 1974 are allowed.
They have roof, steeper roof pitches and stuff like that.
I'd have to look at what the differences are. I'm not familiar with what they changed in it. I just know that is the standard.
Only if it's one there previously, right?
So if you have an existing one that predates 1974, is grandfathered in.
Right.
But when somebody wants to replace a unit,
Has to be a
specifically,
modular home, then?
well, it'd be a manufactured. Or
Manufactured.
I might be saying it backwards. I can't remember which one's
Modular is
first.
the newer.
Modular is separate.
And
Modular is not manufactured or mobile.
okay.
It is not a trailer.
And then inspected and
is.
certified before it leaves the factory to
Yeah.
meet the.
A modular looks like a site built house. So if somebody, there's companies that will do this, so you gotta be wary. They will try to sell you a trailer and tell you it's modular because they know municipalities have to allow them. But you'll buy it and then you'll send it to me and I'll tell you that this is built to the HUD code, not the local building code. So it's a manufactured or mobile.
I saw a modular built, and they brought in there was rooms, and they built it on a slab, and they basically bolted it to that slab and everything.
Yeah.
So what is the one on Rice Street? Stephanie, the lady that's gone now, lived in. Is that a manufacturer or a modular?
No.
Well, that's an old structure. That would be.
No, they brought it in. It
Wait, are
ain't too
you?
far old.
Well, you're talking about the new one they moved in.
Yeah.
That was a site built that they moved.
Site built.
They just moved that, yeah. But that, to my understanding, that was a site built home that they moved from another lot to that lot. If I'm recalling
I thought
right.
it was brand new. Cause she bought it, and I know she was told that she couldn't bring it here, but by law she could, and she brought it anyways, and then put the cement around it and the driveway and all that. You know
If
which
it
one
was
I'm
by
talking about?
law, then it has to be modular.
Modular, okay.
If it's
So
by, that's the only
yeah,
law that would
that's what I
protect
think.
it, yeah.
So what's the difference between modular and manufactured? That's
So-
what I'm confused.
Modular, think of it as the building code. Modular is built to the local building code, which is your international codes. And then a mobile / manufactured is built to the HUD code.
So they are basically the same, manufactured and mobile?
Or the
almost?
same thing. It's just there's a
Okay.
year that differentiates when it became from manufactured to mobile or vice versa. I apologize. I don't
And
remember
they're
which
just
one's which.
grandfathered in, but they can't be moved in.
So manufactured home can come up, will come on a chassis And you can have that removed, but it's still,
Yeah, I
Same
mean,
as mobile though, right?
well,
Mobile, you take the
again,
wheels off of. There's still a suspension available to it. We'll start with the simple stuff first for identifying it.
but again, it's identified through the year it was made. That is
Okay.
your differentiation. It's not necessarily going to be. You're not going to go out on the street and you're not going to point, but yep, that's manufactured and yep, that's mobile. You're probably not going to be able to tell the difference
But
for the
you
most
can't
part.
bring them in. You can only.
You can bring in HUD manufactured homes that are new within the 5 years of application date. That's what cities are
Okay,
doing.
so no more than 5 years.
No more than 5 years old. So you can bring one in if it's zoned that way. That's how our community does it. That's how Hutto does it.
Okay, if it's
Where-
zoned that way.
If it's zoned that way, you can bring it in and you'd meet the requirements. It would be new. That's a pretty common thing for cities. It's new in the last 5 years. They don't make those units after 1974 anymore. Everything is
okay.
new. But you specify it anyways because someone will try to sell you a really old home. And
Charlie, if you bring it in with a bold roof line on 3 out of 4 tires, you're probably not gonna be able to park it.
yeah. And so your community has standards as far as those go about how fast they have to skirt it and do those items of tying it into water and things like that. So.
I have one other question, and then only because I saw this in, I think it was Huntsville. It was like a whole apartment complex built out of containers.
Caldwell got something.
Does they have some containers?
Well, the problem with containers is
Well, not containers.
you would have to do a lot of work to them to make them meet a building code. It's gonna be your main problem with them.
Okay,
You couldn't just move one in and put a couple windows and a bed in there and call it good.
right.
You're gonna have to put insulation in there. You're gonna have to make it fire retardant.
Oh,
You're
no,
gonna have
these
to do
had
a
like
lot of.
separate rooms, and I think they were like dorms that kids were living in Huntsville.
Some communities will call that modular, because each room is separate and brought in and pieced together to.
Oh, no,
That
this
one
is
house has a
one
container in it already. The one Jamal Williams had.
Yeah, and that house is gonna be torn down.
Yeah, but it had a
Um,
container in there as a room.
Yeah, that was something that shouldn't have been allowed because, but again, I mean, it comes down to the building code. That is the easiest way to explain it. Is if you
Yeah.
can make it meet the building code, then it's defined as a dwelling unit. So you can bring in a container and do all this work to it and make it meet your local building code, and then it would be a dwelling unit unless you had other specifications that would not allow it. Which we actually do. We say containers aren't allowed.
Well, and the deal is,
But,
you
you know.
start with an 8-foot wide container. By the time you put insulation sheetrock walls, you're only 6, 7 foot wide. So.
Yeah, usually people will buy a few of them, and then
Yeah.
they'll interconnect them. I remember someone proposed a plan to the city for someone to do that at one point when I was first here, and their biggest challenge is meeting the building code, which they didn't move forward with because it's a big challenge.
Okay, we're in the city of Hutto.
Yeah, so to reiterate, those are the different type of residential districts that the city of Hutto has. I'm just showing you guys this as ideas or things that you don't like for when we start to look at ours. Again, I'll say that we can make very minimal changes and not do very much, and that's perfectly fine. Or we can make larger changes as the comp plan wants us to, and that's also fine. You know, this is purely just a workshop of what your ideas and opinions are, and we'll work through
The
those.
city of Hutto had that, also had that designation of businesses that look like houses, or houses that have been.
Yeah, they do. They have a unique zoning district, and I don't recall what it's called.
It was R1C.
But they have a where they look like houses, but it is purely just a business, and it has parking like it's a business, but it looks like a home. The city of Hutto, so they have an elements of form-based zoning codes with the traditional. So traditional is a Euclidean, and then the form-based is based on like site design and what's around the area is a good rule of thumb. They have an idea called transect zones, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I fully understand this either, because I don't. I've looked at it, and I haven't had enough time to really understand what they're going for here. But I'll at least give you the definition of what it says. It's a component zone of the Old Town and the form-based code in those two districts. The transect zones are administratively similar to the zoning districts, except that in addition to the usual building use, density, height, and setback requirements. Other elements of the intended buildings are integrated, including those of the private lot and building and public frontage.
That'd be similar to our downtown.
Or HOA
I
No.
don't know.
type.
I really don't know what their intentions were. Though, off of a quick glance of what this seemed like, it almost seemed like it's more of a, this is for the newer. As the city grows, these are more strict zoning because it's going to include the form-based codes requirements and traditional zone requirements. I could be way off base with this,
That's what it sounded like.
but that's what it sounded like to me when I read this. I looked at their zoning map, which I didn't include, and it's, I was struggling with that one. But I wanted to include it for you guys so you can see it.
Sounds like they got somebody that did our master plan, comprehensive plan. It sounds like something.
Well, both Hutto and Taylor went through one, and they did.
Uh-oh, time's up.
But I don't know what their ultimate goal with that is. If that's something you're interested in, I'll absolutely research it more. But if you're not interested in something like that, I
Sounds
was
like it's
just gonna
something
pass
like
by
maybe
it.
Cornerstone. You know, they building all them houses out there, so they trying to make sure they are up to par versus the old part of the town versus grandfathered in.
Well, yeah, and you can do that. So that section that says the form-based code, which is one of the elements, that's what that section usually does. What a form-based code does is you set the parameters of, I'll break it down like this. If you talk about their streets, you set a different type of street type, so a local street, a collector street, a square, things of that nature. You'll set those parameters and you'll say, these are acceptable streets. And then when somebody comes in with the zone change, then they know what acceptable streets they have. And then they'll select from those streets and make their development off that. That's what a form-based code does. What a Euclidean zone code does, which is what ours does, says that your street has to be a certain width. Sometimes they'll say you have to have a certain amount of lanes to travel. And then you have to require parking and curbing. That's about as strict as it gets for us. So you can be as design heavy as you want, which is what the form-based code approach is. You can do a mix of that, which is kind of where I'll get into with us, is where we most likely will fall, is we'll keep mostly Euclidean zoning and maybe adopt certain elements of design requirements as far as streets go.
Alleys, maybe?
You can do alleys.
Downtown-
I mean, you
downtown
because you can require the alleys to be. So what some communities will do is they require the alley to be the service. So instead of the house is actually closer to the road, and you go to the back of the alley and you get into your garage, and that's where your trash is serviced and things like that, because it's the element of the street view beauty essentially. They don't want those services to be seen at the front because it's just causes clutter from the house.
Or more businesses travel through the alleys, maybe form-based. I don't know if you call it the same. You know how they got like the squares and the alleys and they starting to make it more beautified.
Yeah.
I've seen it in Tennessee, and you look down the alley, downtown area, and you got like 6 more businesses off in there. So you walk down that alley and like it was nice.
Yeah, our comp plan called for us to do something like that in our downtown alleys, which is a good idea. The only problem with improving alleys is you have to remember there's utilities under them.
Right.
Is the only problem with it. It is a great idea, and I back it, but I can also see the argument that you tear that up because you had a water leak and now you got to repair it. And when you repair something, it usually never looks the same. But that is the city of Hutto. We'll move on to Taylor, which I think has done a really excellent job with their zoning. So they have P2 rural, and the way Taylor has done it is as the number goes up, the more intense the uses get to an extent, which I thought made a lot of sense. It's a very simple thing that not many communities do. P2.5 is a large lot. So their rural area for Taylor is, I don't believe they can really build on it, if I'm recalling right. And if they do, it's a very large lot, because their large lot is a little bit less dense than what rural is. Then they have a neighborhood. Then they actually have a manufactured housing, so that way they have their own zoning to go into. And then they have a couple of mixed-use zones that they have, which is a mix and then an urban. I wanted to show you guys this because this is something that I might be able to prepare to you guys in the next meeting for you to look at is what, if I made something like this for what we have now, what it looks like on our end,
Oh,
potentially. Because I figured what we would do at this workshop is residential affects most of your guys' community. I think it affects about 51% of your community is strictly just a residential use. And so if you can work through the meat and potatoes of the residential, it would get commercial and industrial are going to naturally follow right after that pretty easily. So if I give you the most descriptive things possible, maybe we can decide where we really want to go with this. But for what you can't see, this is what I was referring to Charles about what form-based will do. They get pretty descriptive. I'm not going to get this descriptive with you guys, but they define the street types as I talked about, if they're allowed, if they're not allowed. They have lots, which Taylor doesn't do lot sizes for most of it, but that's because they're extremely descriptive on how they want their development to be. That's not something we would do. We would keep our lot sizes.
Is that retro into existing, or is this future build, or
This is-
based?
This is zoning over what the city of Taylor is currently. So what a lot of these form-based codes will do is they create a really inclusive code that fits the design elements that currently exist and help it grow as Taylor grows, is what they'll do. It takes a lot of work to do it. I'd have to show you their UDC. I think it's like 300 and something pages long, and this section alone is probably like 60 to 70 pages. Because they get very descriptive on how the lots are laid out, what type of streets you can do. That's not something that we would necessarily get into. Unless we get the grant that we're going for, then maybe that's something you're interested in. But a person of one that just cannot do that.
One part of our charge to condense and compress. They kind of dinged us on our.
Well, yeah. What they really dinged us on is we have very, for lack of better words, lawyer type language in our ordinances, which is a common thing for ordinances. Many ordinances still read like that. And so they're recommending us to use easier language. Something that I was taught as being a history major is you give presentations in a 5th grade reading level, because that's what the common population can understand. And your goal when you give a presentation is for people to understand it. It'd be kind of the same thing with your ordinances. You want it to be a 5th grade reading level. The opposite of what state law is.
I'll try to get up to your level. I don't know.
But that's something that we've done as we made amendments. This last amendment I made that I reiterated state law is probably the most complex amendment you've seen because the language is state law's language and not mine. But that's one of the things they dinged us on. The other is this workshop starting to be a little bit more inclusive. I will say the comp plan says for us to keep our Euclidean zoning, but to just adopt elements of form-based zoning, which is where I imagine we will go. But as far as this table, I mean, that's all this is saying is it's breaking down what's allowed where, almost like our use table does, but it just gets very specific as far as the lot sizes. See, there's residential buildings. So they don't get super specific, but they'll say a detached dwelling, an attached cottage court, duplex, triplex, so on and so forth. They actually do allow accessory dwelling units as well. And then the commercial buildings, they don't get into the specific use types. They'll just say small commercial, live, work, et cetera, et
Did
cetera.
Red Oak or Hutto have accessory buildings?
I'd have to look. That's not something I was really necessarily researching for. I'd imagine that Hutto probably does and Red Oak does not. The reason I say that is Red Oak has a older ordinance, and that's why they keep doing planned development districts.
I think I mentioned before I worked with the Taylor Park, and it is easy to read. If you have this, you can do this.
Oh, yeah.
That's all you can do. You can't,
This-
don't ask about this, or this.
That's what you're talking about.
Yep.
That's extremely helpful to the point where
What is that called?
no matter where you go, this can be, they don't really have a name for it, I don't believe. You can call it a zoning district table, almost, is what it really is.
That's in the comprehensive plan though for the different.
We have a similar, I'll show you. I came prepared. Yeah, this is what you're referring
Go, Bill.
to.
There we go.
We'll get into that, and I'll explain what the small differences of that is. But as far as what Taylor does is like Councilmember Willie says, they tell you what's allowed and what's not. But it is still form-based. They do that's what I'm saying. Taylor did a really good job with their zoning ordinance, and it's a good community to look at. The only issue with looking at Taylor is they don't really do Euclidean anymore, and we most likely still will, so we'll have to make adjustments. You can't just copy and paste what they're doing. Because what form-based is, it's really tailored to Taylor uniquely. So you
They
can't
had
fit
some
Taylor
break-
into Rockdale.
They had some breakaway to develop MUDs that they didn't want to be in the city.
Well,
Was that part of the issue for those new developments, or?
Well, Taylor is just like any other city that's growing rapidly. You start to become internalized of what you really want, and so you can start saying no to developments that don't necessarily benefit you or your taxpayers. It's kind of what Taylor's in. So you'll hear some developers say that, Taylor, we couldn't build in Taylor for whatever reason, and that's typically the reason why, is they want a very specific type of development. Rockdale may get to that point as the city grows, especially if you just keep seeing residential, then there will come a point where you really just want to start seeing some commercial. But that's more what you're referring to. It doesn't necessarily have to do with the code. It's more of the fact that the review timelines and things like that the city will use. As far as this is also something that I can make. What will probably happen is I'll discuss something like this with you guys and this just so y'all can get a visual of how we compare. And maybe if you see it in this format, it will be a little bit easier to understand where you want to go from here. What we are currently, we had this workshop last time, so I'll be quick with it. We have an ag district, we have a few residential districts, and then we have 2 manufactured home districts. One is for a single house on a single lot, the other one's for a park, just as the name states. And again, I just limit here that your single family only allows 1 site-built house, your R2 allows up to 2 to 4 dwelling units, and then your R3 is more than 5 dwelling units. Just keep in mind the way zoning works is you can always revert back to the lesser of the uses. So you could still be an R3 and just put a site-built home on there. So just keep that in mind.
Regarding Red Oak and Hutto, did they have lot size restrictions within those designations?
I don't recall Putto did. Red Oak did. If you remember all those different residential districts I was showing you from Red Oak, it was very detailed. And when I first looked at it, I was shocked when I read it. But all it is, at least from what their definitions say, is it's based on their lot sizes. Their lot square footage requirements determines what district you're in, is how they've done it. And then you have 2 sub-districts within R1, really. You have a R1E, which is a minimum lot size of an acre. And then you have an R1C that really can go away because it's just allowing an accessory business and an accessory dwelling unit, which is already allowed in your home occupation code. So they don't necessarily need this zoning district anymore. This is the current zoning map. We won't have to look at it too long, but as you can see, I was telling you that your residential is most of your community. Your residential is this yellow here, Cornerstone's in the yellow, and then this dark maroon color is your mobile home parks as well. Again, your existing land use, I've already reiterated this to you guys, so I won't go over it with you. But the reason we're in residential right now and where we will spend most of our time is because 51% of your city limits is residential. So it makes up more than all of your other zoning districts combined, which is a typical thing for a community. I put the table above the other one so the colors are right. I'll have to get them to actually fix that for you guys. But so if you compare this table to this table, you'll notice a little bit of a difference, and this is why we're having this workshop. If you can recall, I would like to bring as many people into zoning compliance as possible. And what this is your actual land uses. So the yellow is what's being used residentially, and these black borders is your city limits line, and then the cloud looking shape is the ETJ, just for those that haven't seen that before. So you have mostly residential, and then it looks like the west part along Cameron, which is this road here, is mostly commercial. All this is this just an indicator of how your land's really being used. Now, as far as what Commissioner Higdon was talking about, the future land use map came with some designations as well, and they're recommending a couple mixed use corridors, some different type of residentials, a downtown, a regional node, an employment and industrial district. We can, as you start to do your zoning amendments potentially, as you start to do your zoning ordinance amendments potentially, you can take this straight as they recommend it, and you can adopt it, or you can adopt elements within that, and maybe do something more of like a Howard Taylor did it, where you have a residential large lot, and then a residential neighborhood, and then a mixed use. I mean, you can get as creative as you want. It is really up to you, but this is how your comp plan recommends it.
And is this located, that's in the comp plan?
Yeah.
The definitions of the.
Yeah, all this in the comp plan. I believe it starts on page 32. It's your land use designation section, so you can get more information on all of this as we really start to take a deep dive into it. This is the future land use map. So essentially what the comp plan has done is they put all of your residential into the category of a core neighborhood. Think of it like an existing neighborhood. And then they have a new neighborhood. So this is where they imagine your growth is probably going to be residentially wise within your ETJ. And so they have that specified as new neighborhood. I'm not going to get into all the commercials because that's not the intention of this workshop. Just know that they do have a few mixed use sections. So think along Ackerman and Maine, where you have your business maybe next to a home, and your downtown area is also a mixed use, even though it is called downtown. So again, I just wanted to put this slide in there. This is the reason we're also doing these workshops, is because a lot of communities are facing what's known as missing middle housing, because communities just require a certain home size is typically how they'll refer to it, and it eliminates a lot of different types of housing that you could potentially have in your community. And these housing is, a lot of people view it as a scary thing, but if it's done correctly, it really is a cohesive development with one another that brings a lot of character to your community.
Question.
Uh-huh.
In College Station, right there at the university, they have a multi-story where they have living above and businesses on at least the first floor. Is that considered mixed use or?
Yeah, that would be mixed use. A mixed use is, it can be in the same building, or it can be on the same property, or it can be in the same zoning district. So the key differentiations is, yeah, your second story can be a living environment, and then maybe you run a bakery at the bottom. Or maybe someone comes in with a multi-lot development for mixed use, so maybe they have a small commercial building that fronts the highway portion of the property, and then they have residential components in the back.
So that designation can be, or
What a mixed use,
vertical or horizontal.
what a mixed use designation does is it essentially allows for more uses. It does not mean that you have to use that property in a mixed use for their use. Someone could buy this lot and build their single family house, and then maybe somebody next to them puts in a small commercial building that doesn't create a lot of traffic. That would work intertwined. You would have those requirements that would protect that residential use as well as let them use that commercial. That's what a mixed use corridor does. Is it just allows for the mix of uses.
Is that really becoming more popular as cities grow, or is that a pre-planned?
It's not necessarily as the city grows sort of thing. The best way to describe it is as cities have developed, they have noticed growth patterns that don't necessarily meet the how strict a Euclidean zoning is. Communities that may have adopted it have a lot of non-conforming uses, or as a city grows, developers come in with different ideas that may work for your city, but since it's such a strict standard, it doesn't allow for that mixed use. That's more of the reason that they've come about.
I think with all the growth and all the ideas of people moving in, you know, if somebody want to open a business, how much land do you have to offer for them to actually open a business, or how many available buildings are affordable for them to open a business too? You know, that's why a lot of people start doing them food trucks and all that stuff, because they couldn't afford to buy a big building to run a business or try out one.
And to his point, it has become a lot more popular recently to do a mixed-use commercial / residential component when you buy maybe a large few acre piece of lot, instead of just putting strictly residential or just one commercial building on it. Developers have started to tend to lean more of a mixed-use route and hit both markets.
What is a parking garage multi-story considered?
A parking garage is typically going to be considered a commercial, and the reason behind it is because of the traffic count that would have
Because
in
I also
relation to
saw
it.
that in some of the cities where they're putting they're putting apartments above the parking garage. And I've trying to resolve that mixed use terminology.
Mixed use
That's
is
usually business and residential when it's.
the best way to describe mixed use, which probably will not help you at all because it's only going to add more mud in the water, is it's unique to each community. It is as each community needs that mixed use to be is how you can craft it. It really is almost like a plan unit development in a way. But what it does is you set the standards that are allowed by right instead of you having to come negotiate to me what these standards are. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It might just provide a little bit of transparency about the plan over time.
Yeah, I mean, somebody can still come in for a plan unit development at any time. The intent of your zoning ordinance, time is money in the development world. Jim can attest to that. And so if you require them to come in every time and meet with city staff to negotiate standards of your development, the city is hurting themselves of bringing in that development. You still want to protect the city, so you just don't want to allow anything by right, but you want to set different standards that allow for creative developments. And if they want something else, then they can come to you and ask. But you don't want it to be so strict that they have to come to you and ask every time.
Go to the next city over. There's a building downtown next to used to be the gun store. There's an office on the bottom. There's an apartment at the top. Is that would that be a mixed use?
Downtown, a lot of it has a live-work environment. That would be defined as live-work. And live-work is a mixed use, yeah. Because you have a residential use on the top, and you have a commercial use on the bottom, and then they coexist with each other.
How much more time you need? Have we bogged you down completely, or are you?
No, we'll get into these slides next time. We're at a pretty good stopping point unless you guys have any other questions for me. I know that was a lot. But I will, at the next workshop, I will try to create a table similar to something like this for your residential area so we can really dig down on what you like and maybe what you don't like, and then what your comp plan calls for. I think I've given everybody their comp plans by now, so if you'll bring it at the next meeting.
Did you remit hers?
I have it.
Okay.
So I have one extra for the new one that comes in, but if you'll bring it next time, I would appreciate it. I can also hold on to them if you guys do not want to be responsible for carrying them.
Say, can I leave mine?
Yes.
Yes.
And with that, you can reach out to me anytime if something crosses your mind or any questions of the workshop, because this is going to be a ongoing thing. We've have a grant applied for. We're going out for RFPs for services, so hopefully we're just setting the groundwork for someone to come in and do the dirty work. But just in case, you'll at least be prepared to do that dirty work if you have to.
Charlie, isn't that your business? Dirty jobs done?
That's Dirty Brown, Jordan Brown, Dirty Brown.
Oh, yeah.
You
Same
know,
class, different wrong person.
Oh, I know. Every time Jock would make a touchdown, Jordan be standing there with red flags on his. Don't talk.
you brought up College Station.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a traditionally orange business, you have to have a maroon panel in your building. Look at the Whataburger.
I know they did that to Whataburger. but,
Whataburger, Home Depot.
Man.
Take over.
They say that's why there's not a Hooters in College.
Wait.
College Station.
Yeah, there's
It's
not,
in
by
Bryan.
the way. But okay, let's turn the mics off and go.
Yep, got the big maroon panel in their building.
The next meeting, workshop. What are you thinking?
So we will be having a workshop unless we reach out to you otherwise, if I can't get these tables done in time. But if I can get them done, we'll have a workshop and we'll start discussing. And I will just tell you, start putting your thinking caps on, because after these presentations, we're really bogging down on what we want to change and what we don't want to change, what we like, what we don't like. Think of other communities that you like, something that may fit Rockdale, because you guys are just as part of this as I am. So we will start working on this together. I just want to give you the baseline of everything before we really dig down and I just throw you in the fire.
I reached out and blew Gerald's mind because I had some questions regarding streets because I knew that was coming up, and
Yeah, most likely we'll start that in October, maybe, or November. Everybody should have access to that spreadsheet, and again, it's a lot. If you need help reading it, just call me, because I look at it and I'm the one that made it, and sometimes it's a difficult read. So if you have, but if you want to start jotting down ideas as we start to workshop it, what the goal of the workshop is going to be is that we're going to list out.
well, my question was is this within the realm of a workshop right now? Okay. So I had questions. You broke it out into streets and into blocks and specific areas.
Right.
And we don't have a budget yet, but I was kind of wondering budgetarily what the costs were. Because you had the different categories, and reached out to Gerald. I said, how much does it cost to chip seal or seal cracks, and versus digging out the base, replacing the base?
You should have that on that spreadsheet.
Cost of it?
Yeah. What I did is I put formulas in there, so you can take.
I'm missing a page then.
You give me a call, or if you have time, I'll show you after this.
Okay.
But there should be a couple sheets. I think there's 3 of them, if I can recall.
Yeah.
One of those is a pricing sheet. What you would do is you would take the number of that. I gave you the block length, the square footage of it. You would tie that number in accordingly with whatever the repair is needed, and it will spit you out a number of a rough guess. These are year-old numbers, so they're undervalued now, but it'll give you a rough guess of what it's going to cost. So that way, if you know we have $100,000 in street repairs remaining.
Well,
then you
that's
can-
where I was going. I presumed that it would give the city council more information if we had an rough estimated.
Yeah. Yeah, they have the same thing as you, but if you want to meet after this, we can go over it real quick. It's pretty straightforward.
All right, regarding the workshop or paint schemes that we're talking about in buildings, are there any further questions? I hereby call this meeting adjourned.
And these are just